Pakistan, a nation under siege. It may be a nuclear power and an important ally to the West in the war against terror, but almost every day, in towns and cities across the country, the Taliban attack. Bombings, assassinations, kidnappings.
मेरा गला काट देंगे, फिर मेरी आपकी मुलाकात जो है क़यामत वाले दिन होगी.
Even schools are a target. Pakistanis are paying with their lives.
Patches of war. We have suffered thousands of civilian casualties.
Entire districts of the country's largest city, Karachi, have been infiltrated by the Taliban. The last line of defense, a police force that was never intended to fight terrorism, who rely on each other to survive.
We are looking for a terrorist group. They are involved in target killings and they are planning something big.
But they're fighting an enemy intent on destroying anyone that gets in the way of their jihad or holy war.
जंगा हमारा होता था, वो जो सरकारी आदमी मिलता है मौके पे मिलता है तो उसको मारते हैं, जो मौका मिलता है मारते हैं.
We follow the men who risk their lives every day on the front line. They've become known as the Taliban hunters.
काम से जा रहे हैं हम उनको जिंदा अरेस्ट करने के मूड में.
I've been reporting from this country for over 10 years, covering terrorist attacks and sectarian violence. I've watched as it's reached unprecedented levels, where even school children aren't safe.
This was a well-planned massacre, a bloody 8-hour rampage, executed without mercy.
Gunmen storm a school in Peshawar. Teachers are doused in petrol and set alight. 132 children are murdered. The Taliban claim the attack is retribution for operations carried out by the Pakistani army. A family in Karachi has just begun mourning their loss. Qadil heard about the Peshawar attack this morning and immediately called her family to check on her 13-year-old nephew who attended the school. He's been shot dead.
ये हमारा एक बच्चा था, बस 2 हफ्ते पहले मैं पेशावर गई थी तो बस उधर मेरी बच्चों के साथ खेल रहा है, हंस रहा है, बोल रहा है और एक चंचल बच्चा था. 9-10 के बच्चे किस तरह के होते हैं तसव्वुर नहीं कर सकते कि ये अब हम में नहीं है, इसके साथ ये वाक़या पेश आ चुका है या कुछ. लेकिन इनकी माँ को अल्लाह मियां सब्र हौसला दे. 6 बंदों ने तबाही मचा दी. हजारों एफसी के बंदे वो कुछ नहीं कर सके. वो 6 दहशतगर्द तबाही मचा के चले भी गए. आप खाली यहाँ से अंदाजा लगाएं कौन पावरफुल है.
The Peshawar shootings lead to 2 days of national mourning, and spontaneous rallies against the Taliban take place across the country. There's a lot of anger here today, and I've been in Pakistan, I've been in Karachi before when there's been an attack on major cities and places like Quetta, but something feels really different today. You know, speaking to people here, looking at social media, looking at the TV news, something seems to have changed.
We are here today because we are pained with this incident, barbaric incident of the children being killed. It really pains us.
उस वक्त वो यहाँ पे आए, उन्होंने अपना घर बनाया, सारा कुछ किया. उस वक्त हमने कुछ नहीं किया. आज जब वो हमें मार रहे हैं और सारा कुछ है तो हम लोग मतलब वो जालिम हैं. और उनके साथ उनको बिल्कुल छोड़ना नहीं चाहिए.
They constantly threaten us. They tell us that we are going to blow your capital. We are going to come and going to kill you. Islam has told us you're not supposed to kill the innocent ones.
The Taliban openly claim responsibility for the attack, warning that more will follow. They say it was in retaliation for the Pakistani army's assault on their traditional safe havens near the Afghan border. In June 2014, the government began its most far-reaching anti-Taliban operation to date. The army forcing them out of their stronghold in North Waziristan.
North Waziristan was really their last major haven. So that military operation would have brought a flood of new refugees and Pakistani Taliban into Karachi, probably in the thousands.
By the spring of 2015, the government was claiming victory, but the military campaign had simply shifted the geography of war. The movement of terrorists southwards meant that Pakistan's cities were now the Taliban's major target, with Karachi the greatest prize of all.
Pakistani Taliban will hinder Pakistan's ability to function because this is the economic capital of Pakistan. The Pakistani Taliban's ability to have this disproportionate effect on Pakistan through Karachi is a very serious concern.
Karachi, with almost 24 million residents, is one of the largest cities in the world and is the commercial center of Pakistan, accounting for over a quarter of the country's economy. But the city's ability to produce wealth is coming under increasing pressure as the Taliban seeks to control entire districts. I returned to Karachi only this morning, and already there's news of a police officer murdered in a suspected Taliban attack. Muhammad Iqbal was gunned down before dawn. He's the 164th police officer to be killed on duty in just 12 months. Before burial, his body is brought before his colleagues so they can pay their respects. With so many police here, the funeral prayers themselves are a target. Ahmed Rashid is one of Pakistan's most respected experts on militancy. He lectures on terrorism at universities around the world.
First of all, there are far too few policemen in a city like Karachi to deal with the situation. The numbers are appalling. I mean, Karachi is, 20 million, maybe more, and it's got a few thousand policemen. 80% of the 20 billion that came from the Americans between 2001 and 2011 went to the army. Now, in my opinion, if 80% had gone to the police, which actually deals with the issue of terrorism in villages and cities, etc., we would be in a much better position today.
The flood of terrorists into the city has caught the government off guard. The fight back is led by a group of police officers, informally known as the Taliban Hunters. The force is largely made up of men with no special training. It's estimated that Taliban attacks cost Pakistan up to $5 billion in foreign investment every year. Yet these men are under-resourced, overstretched, and struggling to cope against the Taliban getting richer through organized crime. Specialist Superintendent Ijaz heads the team and plans anti-terrorist raids from his armored compound in central Karachi.
ठीक है, यहाँ पे तकरीबन जब हम उसमें करेंगे, एंट्री में सिर्फ आप 3 लोग मेरे साथ जाएंगे, पहले नंबर पे ये होगा, दूसरे पे आप, तीसरे पे आप, ठीक है?
ठीक है, ये मुझे बताएं कि ऑफिसर इजाज़ कैसे आदमी है, कैसे काम करते हैं?
मेरा उसके साथ 2.5-3 साल हो गए। अच्छा ऑफिसर है, इसके लिए मैंने उसके साथ टाइम बहुत गुजारा, लेकिन मैं ऑफिसर को बहुत पसंद, बहुत लाइक करता हूँ। बहुत दलेर ऑफिसर है और यंग ऑफिसर है। हमसे 4-5 कदम खुद आगे होता है, हम फिर भी पीछे होते हैं, लेकिन वो डरने वाला बंदा नहीं है।
But their job becomes more difficult each day as the Taliban's hold on Karachi strengthens. The Taliban using Karachi as a kind of cash cow.
I think it became strategic over time. I don't think it initially started as strategic.
You'd have these different cells setting up in different neighborhoods where they could engage in extortion and ransom.
With kidnapping, crime, bank robberies, fundraising, they carried on their Taliban activity in Karachi.
Faced with an influx of organized crime and no increase in police numbers, Officer Ijaz's team monitor militant activity across the city from this surveillance center. Could you point out the areas where the Taliban has a strong presence?
Orangi, Baldia, Saidabad, Ittihad Town, these areas. Then we have Surjani, we have Sorabgot area. So basically, the slums are encircling the city, and these slums, they are very dangerous.
It's from the slums that the Taliban organize their attacks.
Please show us the blast. This blue bus, white bus actually with blue stripes, this is coming, and this way.
This suicide bombing is timed to deliver maximum carnage to the busy market. 6 people are killed, and 53 are taken to hospital with serious injuries. These indiscriminate attacks keep Karachi's citizens living in a constant state of fear. But it's target killings or assassinations that are the Taliban's most common tool of terror, with almost 200 reported last year.
Please वो जो target killing वाला जो है white, हाँ, yes. Cursor उसके ऊपर रखना. ये you can see these 2 guys being shot and shots being fired on them.
Here, 2 Shia preachers are gunned down by Taliban members on motorbikes. One is killed instantly. Police, journalists, and anyone opposing Taliban ideology is a potential target.
These 2 guys will fire the next guy going on a motorbike in blue dress.
This man rides his motorbike during rush hour. His killer is just feet behind him. The gunman strikes and drives away unchallenged. On average, 10 people die from violence in Karachi every day, many of them at the hands of the Taliban. Yet Ijaz's men are ill-equipped to fight an enemy with growing power.
They are fighting a full-fledged war, so they are not equipped and they are not trained for yet. They were trained for traditional policing, but it is not traditional policing. They are fighting terrorism.
Inadequate funding means the Taliban hunters on the ground lack basic equipment. Many officers carry aging weapons, and others work without essentials like bulletproof vests.
The police are not in a position to roll back the Pakistani Taliban's gains in Karachi. So there's really no mechanisms in place to break this encirclement of the city. As it stands right now, there is no effective strategy to deal with that.
It's estimated that robberies in Karachi alone add up to tens of millions of dollars every day. The Taliban is behind much of this, having forced previously powerful organized gangs out of their territory. Officer Ijaz has invited me to meet a captured Taliban prisoner.
This particular suspect, he is in custody on suspicion of killing some of the law enforcement personnel, and secondly, some other civilians.
He's a target killer.
He's a target killer. He's from a banned organization, terrorist organization actually. And we are interrogating him, still some things to extract because we have some physical and material evidences against him, and we need his confession or his side of the story too, for better chances of conviction.
This is Mansoor. When I first met him, his face was uncovered, and he was eager to tell me about the bomb attacks and shootings he claims to have organized across Karachi. The police have asked me to conduct the interview with Mansoor's identity concealed. They say it's for his safety as well as their own.
Left.
It's an uncomfortable arrangement, but Mansoor is adamant that he wants his voice heard.
ये ट्रेनिंग जो है ये बम वाला ये दूसरा ये बाद में हुआ है वजीरिस्तान में।
और आप किस किस जगह पर बॉम्बिंग करते हैं?
पुलिस और रेंजर में या फौज का कोई मिले ऐसा।
आपने खुद कितने बंदे को मारे हैं? आपने
3-4 आदमी को गोली मारी।
क्यों मारे हैं? वजह क्या?
पुलिस वाला होता है।
पुलिस वाला क्या काफिर है? क्या मतलब?
उनके साथ जंग है ना, बमबारी करते हैं मारते हैं। हुकूमत का अमेरिका के साथ जंग है। अभी तो ये बड़ा आदमियों का काम है, हमारा नहीं।
तुम सिर्फ ऑर्डर मानते हो?
अमीर बोलता है, अमीर बोलता है।
कोई भी नहीं मुझे बता सकता कि तालिबान कराची में चाहती क्या है, पाकिस्तान में चाहती क्या है?
इस्लामी निज़ाम चाहते हैं, शरीयत चाहते हैं।
बताएगा वो इस्लामी निज़ाम? तू बताएगा?
तालिबान बैठा है।
The Taliban hunters have been tipped off about 2 suspected militants thought to be planning an attack.
अपने काम से जा रहे हैं, हम उनको जिंदा अरेस्ट करने के मूड में, और आप लोगों ने मेरे, सफदर और सजाद के डायरेक्ट और क्लियर कट ऑर्डर्स के अलावा बिल्कुल कोई छेड़खानी या कोई फायर नहीं करना है। बिल्कुल गुड लक, इंशाल्लाह अल्लाह कामयाब करेगा। ओके, अल्लाह हाफिज। चलो गाड़ी में बैठो, शाबाश।
They've been planning this raid for 4 weeks. From the moment they leave their compound, they know they're vulnerable to Taliban lookouts and informants.
We are looking for activists of an extremist group. They are planning something big. They are here with arms and ammunition.
It's the Taliban?
Yeah, they say that we are from TTP.
The Pakistani Taliban, or TTP, control much of the territory on the outskirts of Karachi. The team is heading into one of the most notorious slums, Ittihad Town, a TTP stronghold.
The Taliban have their sleeper cells inside Ittihad Town and many other areas actually. Our informer, he has proper knowledge of what they have done in the past. They were involved in target killings of police officers and law enforcement agencies.
As we enter Ittihad Town in the early hours of the morning, the streets are empty. The final approach towards the target house has to be on foot.
एक मिनट कितनी दूर जाना
ये जो बल्ब लगा हुआ है
हाँ
बचे
लाइट बंद करना भाई
The lights are turned off and the team creep forward with a night vision camera.
कौन आएगा अकबर open
Taliban watchmen have been known to sound an alarm or strike a bell as a call to arms for local comrades, who then flood the area to attack police. If spotted, the team will only have moments to leave the area. No one knows how many Talibs are inside and who could be watching. With everyone in place, Officer Ijaz gives the signal.
पुलिस वाले दरवाजा खोलो पुलिस वाले दरवाजा खोलो
The suspects open fire.
बाहर निकले तो गोली मार देंगे
बाहर निकले पुलिस वाले हथियार डाल दो
डाल दो अरे हथियार डाल दो
नीचे कर नीचे हथियार पुलिस वाले नीचे कर
टॉर्च ऊपर दे
ये असेंबली एक मिनट आप छोड़ो मैं कर दूं निकला के अंदर किसको ला दो इनको ऊपर इनको मुंह बांधो चेहरा बांधो आगे से
The men are disarmed, their weapons seized.
चल साथ ले जा
एक एक करके पकड़ो
तू छोड़ दे चल साथ चल
The priority now is getting out of the slum.
आओ सभी हो जाए जल्दी आओ ये समझी किसकी बात है
ये आवाज क्या है?
अपनी टीम पूरी करो उनके साथ रहो बंदा एक
So there was gunshots fired and they took a gun magazine from one of the suspects. They're now taking him to the compound. As soon as we got in there, there was the sound of a kind of an alarm, and a few of the officers told me that these Taliban members sound the alarm to tell people in the area that the police are here. That's why we have to make a quick exit right now. We have to get out of the area.
ओए जरा तकड़े होके बैठना खंबे वंबे पे जा रहे अकबर थोड़े तकड़े होके बैठना खंबे वंबे पे जा रहे हैं आराम पाई नहीं करें Sometimes there is resistance from the local public, but we managed well. We were very brief and very quick, so that ended well, alhamdulillah.
I mean, it could have got really dangerous if we'd have stayed there any longer.
Yeah, exactly. Going into the area, that's not dangerous. Leaving the area, it's always full of risks. Because then they are alarmed, everybody knows, they might try to ambush the motorcade if those guys are really important for them. They will try to get them released from police custody. लड़के डंप कराओ और उसके बाद जो है वो गाड़ी इसको को घुमा ले निकलें बस अभी
The squad believe the suspects were in the final stages of planning to kidnap a prominent businessman whom they'd been shadowing in Karachi.
और ये उनकी है और ये भी उनकी है कितने मिले हैं दो तीन अच्छा दो गन्स और ये मैगजीन्स है
They'll be left in their cells for the next 5 days. Officer Ijaz says the silence makes prisoners more eager to talk. But with every arrest comes the renewed risk of a revenge attack. A regular visit to the graveside of his former boss provides a stark reminder that even the most senior officer can be killed by the Taliban.
he was a hero. And he was a hero of Karachi police. And as far as the dangers or risks or hazards of this job are concerned, myself, my fellow colleagues, they are working day in and day out to eradicate this terrorism.
Ijaz had been a close friend. After the murder, it was he who became the new face of the Taliban hunters. He's a prominent target, and the terrorists can strike at any time. On constant watch is Officer Akbar, who sees it as his personal duty to keep the boss alive.
उस्मानी इजाज़ बाजवा साहब SSP बहुत दलेर ऑफिसर है और बहुत काम करने वाला बंदा है और अपना मुल्क का और अपना कौम का और अपने सबका पुलिस वालों का हर बंदे का ख्याल करने वाला बंदा है.
Even before joining the police, Akbar had personal experience of fighting the Taliban after his village in the north came under attack.
तालिबान के बारे में तो मैं जानता हूँ. तालिबान जो सवात में आए थे, सवात से फिर जिला बुनीर की तरफ उन लोगों ने अटैक कर दिया, तो हमारा ख़ानदान के ऊपर उन लोगों ने अटैक कर दिया. तो फिर मेरे अंकल ने, उसका नाम है अब्दुल रशीद, उसने अपना लश्कर बना दिया. कम से कम उसमें हमारे घर के बंदे थे 170. फिर हम लोगों ने उन लोगों का मुकाबला कर दिया, लेकिन उसकी बारी नफरी और आ गए. 800-900 बंदे तालिबान और आ गए. तो हम लोग उन लोगों के साथ मुकाबला नहीं कर सकते थे. हम लोग फिर वो जगह छोड़ के हम लोग वापसी कराची की तरफ. हमारे जो फोर्सेस के जवान भी थे, पुलिस के जवान भी थे, वो भी शहीद हो गए उसमें, और जो FC के जवान थे वो भी शहीद हो गए उसमें.
The family rebuilt their lives in Karachi. Akbar joined the Taliban hunters and recently got married. His mother says she's proud of the path he's chosen.
قوم د پاره وزلک خدمت کما قوم د پاره بلک زو ځان قربانه ما الله انده سوال کوم چې زین درس شریف وایم یاد کورسی وایم.
Every time Akbar heads for work, his mother is aware of the danger he's facing, saying a prayer as he leaves.
الله بدغاو چې انت کدی غیر مذهبي خلک خرابه خلک وشته ناسایو چې انا مسلمانان باندې بدی خبر خو مست خوشالي ګونه چې هغه دی لګي چې مسلمانان دی ویلي ها صحیح خبر دا نه ده. طالبان دا مرګیتیا موږ نکو انا به خوشاله بدی خبر باندې چې ګینته کې مسلمانان دي قتل کوي.
In the 5 years he's been in the force, he's become used to being a Taliban target.
ये तो 3-4 मरतबे इस तरह हुआ है कि अटैक हो जाते हैं, लेकिन अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह माँ बाप की दुआएं होते हैं. अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हम लोग अपना सेफ्टी खुद कर लेते हैं. पहले अपना सेफ्टी, फिर ऑफिसर के कहने होते पहले अपना सेफ्टी करो, उसके बाद फिर मेरा करो. अपना भी करते हैं, ऑफिसर का भी करते हैं.
ऑफिसर इजाज़ ने आपका लाइफ कभी सेव किया? वो मुझे बताएं.
वो तो एक फील्ड का एक हिस्सा है, वो तो करना पड़ता है. अगर ऑफिसर के ऊपर कोई अटैक करे तो लाजिमी बात है. हम लोग ऑफिसर इस तरह 5-6 मरतबा हो चुके हैं. ऑफिसर के ऊपर अटैक हुआ है, हम लोगों ने सेफ्टी दी है. अगर हमारे ऊपर ऑफिसर ने हमारे ऊपर सेफ्टी की हमारे साथ.
The men captured in the raid have now been held in silence for 2 days.
Whenever they are in police custody, within 24 hours or 48 hours, they lose their psychological strength.
There have been accusations of physical mistreatment, even torture of prisoners made against the Karachi police. But Officer Ijaz insists that his men employ nothing more than, as he puts it, a little arm twisting.
But is it an effective method of extracting information? You know, as you put it, arm twisting. Can you get reliable evidence that way?
Actually, you must understand this, that they are hardened criminals. They are hardcore extremists. You cannot offer them a bouquet or you cannot offer them a chocolate to get information out of them. Sometimes you have to threaten them of dire consequences, or sometimes you have to raise your voice.
This indifference to human rights is something that I've witnessed again and again. The attempt to shortcut justice is clearly unacceptable, but it's the reality of how police in Karachi operate. I wonder if Ijaz's attitude is a reaction to the constant threat of revenge attacks against him, his colleagues, and his family. Even out of work hours, senior Taliban hunters are forced to travel with armed guards.
When you turned up, you have this entourage with you. You know, behind us is this. There's a police car with flashing lights, gunmen on board, very, very visible.
It obviously draws attention to us. We have to do some basic precautionary work, and we have to keep armed gunmen with us, because we lose our colleagues quite regularly because police is being targeted quite often in Karachi. Secondly, for family, kids are too young, they don't understand the hazards of the job. But my wife and my mother, they are quite concerned about my security.
He's never completely off duty. The family home must be guarded 24 hours a day.
When it comes to my children, I don't get much time to spend with them, and mostly I miss the parent-teacher meeting because of my commitments, official commitments. Then at night when I come home, normally they go to bed before I'm home.
At times they used to run away from their father. No, don't touch me, because he is too busy. He sees them after 2 or 3 days and they are like, okay, baba.
With police work dictating daily life, it's taken a toll on Ijaz's wife, Seher. She's afraid to be identified.
Security reasons and security things are completely kept in mind while moving outside. Today, I need to take this gunman along or that gunman along. Should I take this car outside or that car outside? So should I completely show the number plate of my car?
You actually have to cover your number plate?
Yeah, a number plate. Not to completely show it to the people for security purposes. Because this is Pakistan, we have to take care of that.
You have armed guards outside, so your kids must see these armed men with guns. So are they aware of the work that you do?
Yeah, they are aware of the work. They know that I am a police officer. And normally, if you ask them what is your name, they attach some police rank with it and then tell their names. From the day when they were born, so they were living with these gunmen. So they can't tell me the difference.
But the constant danger to their children is forcing his wife to reconsider their future.
We are seriously thinking to leave this Karachi place. If Ijaz is not leaving it, at least, I would be thinking to leave it within 6 to 7 months, because it's pretty unsafe for me.
So basically, Officer Ijaz would stay working here and you'd move to another city?
Yeah, probably.
It's not only police and their families that are targets. Business owners, politicians, in fact, anyone with obvious wealth is at risk. This video was sent to the family of a local businessman. Kareem, not his real name, was kidnapped by the Taliban. His family have asked that we conceal his identity.
मुझे घर से फैक्ट्री की तरफ आ रहा था तो वहाँ 5-6 लोगों ने मुझे उठा लिया। एक रात और 2 दिन सफर के बाद इन्होंने अपने ठिकाने पे पहुंचा के मुझे कहा कि हम तहरीक तालिबान पाकिस्तान।
It was just another morning in Karachi's business district, but on this day, the Taliban lay in wait.
Here, if you can see, this is the white Corolla. He's arriving. This is the factory gate.
Okay, so he's arriving for work.
He's arriving. This was in the morning. These 2 guys were standing here, and as soon as he stopped the car, there's one guy at the towards the driving seat. This guy actually snatched the keys from the driver, and as soon as they drag him out, they placed him inside the car and sped away.
मेरी जान को खतरा है और तालिबान ना पूरा किया तो ये मेरा गला काट देंगे। फिर मेरी आपकी मुलाकात जो है क़यामत वाले दिन होगी।
After a month in captivity, Kareem was freed during a police shootout. His kidnappers are still awaiting trial. The latest available statistics show that 132 cases of kidnapping were reported in Karachi in 2014, with an estimated $4 million handed over in ransom money to the Taliban.
I would suspect those numbers are actually really low because people aren't reporting kidnappings. They're just trying to deal with them through their own ransom payments and their own negotiations. So I would actually suspect that the kidnapping rates are much, much higher than the official numbers.
Ahmed was also kidnapped by the Taliban. He still lives in fear, but has agreed to meet at a secure hotel in central Karachi.
तो गोली मारने से गिर गया वो उधर ही बस पड़ा रहा मेरे को तो अगवा करके ले गए किडनैप करके पड़ा था चादर और पीछे हाथ ऐसे बांध दिए थे मैंने हाथ बंधे हुए थे उसके बाद तकरीबन घंटा 1.5 घंटे के बाद गाड़ी चली आगे पीछे रास्ता खराब कच्चा अंधेरा जंगल अंदाज़ा क्यों पट्टी बंदी मैं तो देख नहीं सकता था क्या है कहाँ से जा रहे हैं पहले 2 करोड़ डिमांड की 2 करोड़ के बाद उन्होंने जो फिर हमारे बंदों ने बोला हमारे पास इतना पैसा नहीं है आपकी मर्ज़ी है छोड़ देंगे रोड पर कत्ल कर देंगे सर काट देंगे बाजू काट देंगे चमाटे मारते थे 1-2 दफ़ा इधर भी मारा बहुत ज़ोर से अभी तक भी ये दर्द करता है मेरा अभी कभी कभार दर्द होता है और कभी कभार ऐसे थोड़ा खून भी आता रहता है मुँह से रिश्तेदारी में किसी बिरादरी से मांग लेते हैं और यार दोस्त से कोशिश कर रहे हैं जितना भी हो सकता है फिर फाइनल 50 लाख रुपए तक हुआ बस
But the kidnappers have little to fear from the courts, even if they're charged. Recently released figures show that of 115 cases of kidnap over a 12-month period, there wasn't a single conviction.
The conviction rates are abysmal. The majority of cases are not successfully prosecuted in court. So there is an incentive for people to not even turn to the police and not even turn to the judicial system when they experience kidnappings.
Kidnap is just one part of the Taliban's portfolio. And due to intimidation, corruption, and a failing legal system, its members rarely face justice. At the time of filming, of 286 suspected Taliban members behind bars in the city's main prison, just 3 had been convicted.
I think the reason that the judiciary has really failed over these last 10 years is because they're scared. We've had numerous lawyers, judges, defense counsels, witnesses being killed by the militants. And so you'll get kidnappings taking place, shootings taking place, and generally I think there's an air of terror.
At his office in Karachi, Provincial Minister Shajil Memon admits the current system is failing.
Our present judicial system is too slow and the way the cases are linger on for years of years.
The public outrage sparked by the attacks in major cities has met mounting pressure for reform. The government's response has been the introduction of specific anti-terrorism courts with the aim of fast-tracking trials.
We have formed military courts for those terrorists from Taliban, Al-Qaeda.
I mean, that sounds like progress on paper. As you pointed out, there's these specialist anti-terror courts that have been set up, that have been running now for over 12 months. Are you aware of the conviction rates within those courts?
I think that there is some betterment in the system.
There is an improvement, but they're under 6%. It's under 6% conviction rate. Is that acceptable?
Obviously, these special courts formed 1 year ago, and things need to, once we want to bring a change, so it needs some time.
After the massacre at the Army Public School in Peshawar, where 132 children were murdered, the government lifted the moratorium on the death penalty. But human rights groups have labelled this as a reactionary move that fails to deal with the core problem.
Nothing since the Peshawar killings of those students has been done to actually reform, strengthen, modify the judicial system. We've had a lot of draconian laws passed that you will be hanged for terrorism on the slightest suspicion, that you're guilty until you can prove that you're innocent. But we have, and I mean, these are draconian laws that have nothing to do with reforming the judicial system.
The Pakistani Taliban can't be deterred by capital punishment. Most of them intend to die over the course of their careers in quote-unquote jihad. The use of capital punishment will create additional vendettas and additional desire for retaliation by the organization, so it actually in some ways may perpetuate the cycle of violence.
Events in Peshawar appear to have made the Taliban hunters more determined than ever to defeat the terrorists. They're carrying out multiple raids across Karachi, and 5 militants were shot in a gun battle earlier today. As our team returns to the compound, it's clear the police are under renewed pressure to deliver results.
I got to the compound about 10 minutes ago, and as soon as I got here, I could hear screaming from the interrogation area down there. You can see 2 suspects that are up against the wall right now. Every time I've asked Officer Ijaz about what he calls arm twisting, he's avoided the question.
It's now 5 days since the raid and the capture of 2 Taliban suspects. Off camera, they tell me they want to be interviewed. I've no way of knowing how the suspects have been treated by the police, but they claim to be proud Taliban members and say they have nothing to hide.
और आप कराची में क्यों आए?
सर अमीर सर ने भेजा था।
क्या?
अमीर ने भेजा था सर।
अमीर ने भेजा था?
उठाना था उसको, अगवा कराना था सर। अगवा करके फिर जिस जगह से पकड़ के लाए थे यहाँ बिठाना था।
अगर लोग पैसे ना दें आपको तो फिर वो लोगों के साथ क्या करते हैं आप?
मार देते हैं फिर क्या?
कैसे मारते हैं?
मार देते, गोली मार देते हैं, रेड और नेट कर देते हैं।
जो तालिबान के लोग हैं?
जी सर।
आप तालिबान में हैं? आपने कभी किसी को कत्ल भी किया?
सर किया था, इधर नहीं किया, सरहद में किया था पेशावर में।
किसी को, वो कौन था?
तो बस हम उसका फिर हम नहीं पूछते कि कौन है, मार देते हैं बस।
आप पुलिस वालों को भी मारते हैं?
जी सर, यही तो उनके साथ मिले हुए उनके पैसों पे चलते हैं।
आप समझते हैं कि जो पाकिस्तान में पुलिस है वो अमेरिका के साथ है?
हाँ सर, वो तो सब रोनी के लोग हैं ना, इस सारे मिले हैं।
आपने कितने लोगों को कत्ल किया? बताएं ना।
सर तकरीबन
5 लोगों को कत्ल किया। तो वो सब पुलिस में थे?
सर ये पता नहीं कि पुलिस है।
तो आप समझते हैं ये लोगों को कत्ल करना ये मुसलमान का काम होता है?
सर तो ये भी तो हमारे लोगों को मारते हैं ना।
कौन मारता है आप लोगों को? कौन मारता है?
अंग्रेज लोग तो ये जो बम मार रहे हैं।
तो जो आपने कत्ल किया वो अंग्रेज था?
तो ये भी तो सर उन्हीं के साथ मिले होते हैं ना।
I need to ask you something, Officer Ijaz, as well. You know, when I arrived at the compound, I did hear some screaming from one of the interrogation rooms. So, you know, you've told me in the past, you've referenced this kind of arm twisting techniques that you use. What techniques do you use?
No, we don't do this because not exactly. Torture is not a solution to the problem. Actually, we can if at all we beat them, we can get whatever we want to. But that is not true. That will not be very true. Actually, they'll be telling us because of that pressure, because of the fear of beating them. Basically, we try to little bit pressurize them, or they are hardened criminals. Sometimes we threaten them of dire consequences. We have to ask them in a harsh manner, obviously.
Officer Ijaz's uncomfortable response may be open to interpretation, but it's clear he's frustrated by a judicial system that ensures very few convictions for terrorism. Despite their claim of multiple murders, these suspects may never face trial. In recent months, the government has declared some success following a fresh campaign against the Taliban in Karachi. That campaign is based on brute force rather than policy change, as more Taliban hunters are drafted into the city and many others are being recruited.
तालिबान सिर्फ कराची में नहीं पूरे पाकिस्तान में जा रहे हैं यही चाह रहे हैं कि भाई हम दहशतगर्दी फैलाएं अपनी जो हमारा मुतालबा है वो पूरा किया जाए
23-year-old Ashik Muhammad Ali is only in his first year at the police academy, and he's already come under attack.
सर हमने सिर्फ गाड़ी देखी थी साइड में गाड़ी खड़ी हुई थी जैसे हमारी बस उसको क्रॉस कर रही थी तो वो बम ब्लास्ट हुआ
This CCTV footage captures the moment the bus Ashik and his colleagues were traveling in was struck by a Taliban car bomb.
उसमें हमारे काफ़ी जवान तकरीबन 13 जवान शहीद हो गए थे बाकी जवान इंजर्ड हो गए थे ये तालिबान थे जी तालिबान थे तालिबानों का बस यही है इनका कहना कि भाई हमारे ऊपर जो मखसूस ये फोर्स शक्तियाँ कर रही है हमारे बंदे पकड़ रही है मार रही है ये बंद करे बनाम जो ना फोर्स के खिलाफ दहशतगर्दी करेंगे फोर्स को मारेंगे आवाम को मारेंगे बम ब्लास्ट करेंगे
Some support does seem to be reaching the police, but the battle to defeat the Taliban will be long and very dangerous, with no guarantee of success.
हम पीछे नहीं हटेंगे हम दहशतगर्दी खत्म करके रहेंगे इंशाल्लाह जंग कामयाब रखेंगे अपनी ये क्योंकि नाजायज लोग आवाम मर रही है आवाम को मार रहे हैं ये जो इन्होंने दहशतगर्दी फैलाई है पाकिस्तान में इनको हम इंशाल्लाह ख़त्म ही करेंगे जद्दोजहद जारी रखेंगे हम अपनी और अब हमारे जो शहीद हुए हैं उनका हम बदला लेके रहेंगे इंशाल्लाह
The threat from the militants is now the single most pressing issue for Pakistanis struggling to maintain some sense of normality in their daily lives. Without policy change and lasting commitment from the government, Pakistan is more vulnerable to the next generation of Taliban, who are more willing than ever before to take their war into Pakistan's cities, airports, and schools.
Police alone cannot do this job. If we are stronger enough, we will just wipe them out from Karachi and then there will be no threat to police officers. Obviously, we feel vulnerable sometimes, but that's not the point. We have to fight it. There is no other way. We just can't leave the battlefield and run away.